Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Brode from Deep Knowledge Investing. We work with hedge funds, family offices, registered investment advisors, and individuals like you to help you get better returns in the stock market. I'm here with our host, Robb Fahrion. He's the CEO and founder of Flying V, Deep Knowledge Investing's digital marketing partner. Robb, the last time we were talking, your wife, Alexandra, was in the middle of running a half marathon. I'm not going to ask you about your week. How was her week?
Her week was actually pretty good, I think. She was very smart and arranged a nice little staycation getaway the day after, which I got to enjoy in that as well. You know, massage, pool, whole nine yards there. Helped her come down from the run, and she beat her goal too. I think it was one hour and 52 minutes. Her goal was 2 hours. So,
All right.
and yeah, she did it in 2 hours, I think 10 years ago. So and this was her first time running another half marathon. So yeah, it went really well.
So she beat her goal time by about 40 seconds a mile.
Yeah, I think she was pacing at like 8:15 pretty much the entire way.
All right. Good for
Yeah,
her.
very impressive.
So,
So,
Rob, when's your next half marathon?
yeah, I don't necessarily have the itch after watching everybody run by, and I think 95% of people. I now, granted, I was posted up at like the I don't know mile 11 and a half, 12, and no one looked like they were having that much fun.
Yeah, well, crossing the finish line's fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
All
I was
right.
there for brunch and beers afterwards. So, yeah, but I don't know. Maybe. Never been a big runner, but she might convince me to get involved.
All right. So you ready to go?
Let's do it. So, Gary, today we have the "That's Not What I Said" issue. Great topic. Interested in diving more into that, and maybe if people are putting words in your mouth, which is always fun to talk about. We're going to talk Auth ID, family home buying. We've got a guest on for agriculture commodity prices, buy now, pay later, whole bunch of different stuff that we're going to talk about. But moving first, we'll jump right in with Ryan Sullivan and Gary introducing him and our first thing.
All right, terrific. Well, we're going to welcome Ryan Sullivan. He is the founder of Off the Beaten Path Financial, a financial advisory firm. Before we introduce Ryan, I just want to say there are a lot of RIAs, a lot of registered investment advisors, wealth advisors who index everything. They don't really spend any time focusing on investing. You go to them and they have this proprietary 60-40 blend, and they just put everything in the market, SPY, QQQ, TLT on the fixed income side, and they're not really doing that much for you. The thing I love about Ryan and his practice is he thinks about investing. He spends time thinking about how we can help his clients outperform. That's the only thing we're interested in at Deep Knowledge Investing. Ryan, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
All right. By the way, you're broadcasting from your new home, or is that a ski chalet?
Well, it's a little bit of both, technically.
All right, perfect. So, Ryan, you had some thoughts on agricultural commodities and food prices. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, so just kind of something I was noticing recently was just I was looking at the different commodity indices and noticed that the agricultural ones had been kind of outperforming for the last while. And so, year to date, they've been up quite a bit more than, even precious metals, which I mean, gold has been going crazy this year. And so that was kind of a surprise.
All right. So, one of the debates we've been having, the CPI keeps showing food prices up by like 2%. I don't believe that for a minute. I was on a webinar last week with some really smart people who were saying, no, those are the numbers. You're just getting them confused with 2 years ago. What do you think? Do you believe food prices are up only 2% in the last year?
No, I don't. I mean, you go to the store, you go out to eat. I mean, it's not the same. I mean, 2% is barely noticeable if you're, checking out. But that was kind of why this kind of piqued my interest because, seeing kind of in the day to day of buying food and going to the store and then looking at, okay, well, hey, if these agricultural commodities are really up that much, that's underlying all where food prices come from. And so people are talking about inflation and they're talking about CPI, but I hadn't really been seeing much about agricultural specifically. And so that was kind of where the whole idea came from was, hey, something's going on here. And then the more I looked into it, cocoa had been going crazy this year. And so I think that's been a big driver of this. It's kind of where a lot of it came from.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk on Twitter or X in the last few days about coffee prices being up as well. Talk that it's going to be excluded from the CPI.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a problem for the people who are reporting because you can't tell people, oh, just buy less food.
Well, that's the thing I love about CPI is that as soon as something starts to run too hot, they just take it out, you know. That way you keep the number down and it's more in line.
Right. Yeah, we have perfect investment returns. I just exclude all of our losers from any calculation. Right.
Yeah, Gary, I think you need to start calculating the way the Fed does. That would be, or the government does. That would be absolutely perfect.
I would love to do that. I mean, our returns are already pretty amazing, but they'd be even better if we could just exclude it every time we lost money. Good idea. Ryan, what do you think is contributing to higher agricultural prices?
I mean, I think, you know, there's been a lot of turmoil in the world and kind of some of these agricultural areas. I mean, so you can talk about Ukraine and wheat and those types of things. You know, with the cow, I mean, in West Africa, that's where a lot of the exports come from. I think it's about 60, maybe 70% of global exports come from there. And so there's been a lot of disease and there's been some storms. And so I think, you know, at the end of the day, weather obviously plays a big part in agriculture. And then also just with some of the conflicts going around the world. And so I think, you know, as there's been kind of this transition post COVID from, you know, globalization and relying on all these different countries. And I think this is just another example too, where, you know, having more control over our food supply is going to be more and more important moving forward. And so I think we're just kind of seeing the consequences of this real global world and where, you know, we all kind of bear the weight of these things happening.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it's one of the things we've written on over the last couple of years, where in the US, we had basically 40 years where we were outsourcing so much to countries that were producing more cheaply. And then all of a sudden, everybody realized, you know what, maybe we need to pay a little bit more, but we want tighter supply lines and closer supply lines. And that's something we're seeing in semiconductors in particular. And in my opinion, we're going to need to do that with pharmaceuticals as well. I don't think we can rely on China for everything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that you know, I think is coming more onshore. And there's obviously, you know, a fair number of opportunities in those spaces as well.
All right. Well, you know, Ryan, one of the other things you wrote about that I like is the idea of keeping some extra stores at home. And for people who are worried about food security, about prices, things like that, it's good to have some sort of store at home. And, you know, my view on it is worst case scenario is a couple of years from now, you have some, you know, extra tuna fish and chocolate that you need to eat. And, you know, it's probably okay. Maybe get a little coffee too.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Now might be the time. I mean, it takes a little while for these commodity prices to kind of follow all the way through the supply chain. And so, you know, I don't think we've really seen the full impact of this at the store yet. So if you're into coffee, you're into chocolate, you know, now's the time to probably stock up. That being said, I mean, it's never a bad idea to have some supplies on hand. And you can look at it as a hedge from the standpoint of, you know, food prices are semi-volatile. And so a couple of years ago, we had a pretty big spike in things. And so to be able to kind of weather those storms to a certain extent by having, you know, a couple months worth of food on hand allows just another level of diversification. And so I think, you know, when we talk about investing, we're really focused on, you know, maybe stocks, but there's a lot of different ways you can be diversified across the board that all impact you financially.
All right. Sounds good. I like those ideas. And I always love the way you think about investing, Ryan. Ryan Sullivan of Off the Beaten Path Financial. Thanks so much. And we'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Rob.
All right.
Thanks, Ryan.
See you
Have a good
later.
one.
All
Awesome.
right.
Yeah, Ryan's a great guy. Be sure to check out Off the Beaten Path Financial. It'll be linked in the written version of the 5 things, as well as in all of this content that we're producing. Be sure to check him out, give him a follow as well.